Welcome back to Get Into the Bag podcast. I go by Polo Sho. I'm a rapper and entrepreneur based here in YYC. And today my guest is...
Yo, what's up everybody? Okay, Tansi Denatara, I'm a hostage. My name is Tribe.1491. I'm giving names to White Flower Hat.
Yeah. We're just going to chop it up today. Dwight is a guy who's up to many things in the community. Just seeing what's new with him. Man, I'll just basically ask, what's new with you, man? Like, as far as your movements. Well, first of all, let me ask you this. Is your rap name, how long have you had that rap name?
It's pretty new. It's pretty new, actually. Yeah.
So can you explain the rap name? Let's start with that.
I actually had a dream. I've been looking for a rap name or an MC name for a long time. Back in the day, they used to call me D-Bone. But that, you know what I mean? Nowadays, it doesn't really fit the times. And so I've always just been going by my name, Dwight Flower Hat, for a long time. And then, I came up with the name Tribe. And then I dreamt about it. And then I went on Instagram to check it out. And actually, in my dream, there's this musician I like by the name of Nako Bear. And in my dream, he came and sat in my kitchen. And he's talking about my music and stuff like that. And basically in the dream he said, "Are you ready?" And musically. And in my dream I wasn't ready to show him. And so I was like, that was a sign where I had to kind of get ready. And then the next day I woke up and I typed on Instagram looking for the name and I went I typed in Tribe, and a guy that came up, there was a picture of him and he was with Nako Bear. And so I was like, what the fuck? So he's in his band or something, or on his crew. And I was like, okay, that's a sign. And then I was just looking for a handle that was clear across all platforms. And my buddy Good Medicine had this hat. It said 1491. And I asked him what that means to you. And 1491 is the year before Christopher Columbus came. And I picked that number 1491 just because it's we've been together on this land for since 1491 or 1492, and we came together, not treating each other super dope, and I think it will remind us of all of this learning that we've had, and now are we actually going to take the lessons from that learning since all these cultures have collided on this land here.
Damn, so that's pretty...
Yeah.
That's pretty deep. So I guess you typed in Tribe, and the guy whose name was Tribe came up.
Yeah.
I thought, wouldn't that have made you hesitant to be like, all right, I can't use this name?
Well, I mean, every name is taken, right? If you think about it.
So that was only the design. So you knew when you saw that it's gonna be Tribe, and then you got the 191.
Yeah.
Man, that's a really dope. There's meaning to that number.
Yeah.
That year, I didn't know that.
And I started thinking about maybe changing the number or changing that last part because some non-indigenous people look at that and they're like, oh yeah, it's been this long since we've been fucking you up or whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't want it to look like that either, because I'm not a political guy in that sense. My mission in life is to help people fall deeper in love with themselves or back in love with themselves. I want to build strong people. And so I've recently been really thinking about changing that last part. But also when you're thinking about a name, you're thinking about so many things. What's the domain? Is the domain available? Is it available across all platforms? Is it easy-ish to remember? I was going over a lot of Blackfoot names, but they're just pretty much unsearchable, right? Even Nako Bear, I first heard a song and someone told me it's Nako Bear, and I'm didn't know how to spell it, didn't know how to whatever, just trying to sound it out, and then and then it just so happened that the song came back 6 months later on YouTube, just because YouTube knows me. And that, so you really think about marketing when you're thinking of a name. It's not like back in the day when you get a name from your community, and then that's just what it is.
Just rock with it. Yeah, definitely. In a digital age where people are searching you up.
Right. Yeah. There's so much more to kind of think about, and I was really thinking about it as a business. And I thought, like, well, there's Tribe Called Red, which is a super famous group, and there's also Tribe Called Quest, and so I'm like, you know, there's nothing wrong with spinning off someone else's momentum a little bit too.
Of course. That's good, man. So I guess, like you said, you know what your mission is while you're here, you know, to make people feel better with themselves. And I guess to ask, like, where did that, you know, when did you discover that, like, you know?
Man, I think it, like, when I was growing up and when I was young, I always suffered with, like, severe depression. There's a lot of things going on at home, a lot of things going on that I was being taught about myself and who I am as an Indigenous person. And through that process, I really learned to fall out of love with myself and be ashamed of myself and be ashamed of my family and my history. And, you know, it kind of got to a point when I was like 17, I really had to make a decision to fight for my life. And I was reading this, or not reading, someone gave me a book tape. And in the book tape, it was like, oh, it was this lady, it was super corny. And she's like, yeah, you need to look in the mirror and say you love yourself. And I thought, geez, that's a strange concept. Why would anybody look in the mirror and say, I love you? And I did it, and it was a lie. And then I decided to keep doing it, and like, because a belief is just something that you thought over and over and over again till it becomes your truth. And I knew right now my truth is that I was just an empty shell of a human. It's really how I felt, just so hollow. One emotion of numbness. And I just decided to fight for my life because I knew it was basically over for me. And so I looked in that mirror and I said, Dwight, I love you. Dwight, I love you. Dwight, I'm going to fight for you. You're special, you're important. I'm going to try for you. You know, all the things I sucked at, like, Dwight, you can't read, but you can learn. You're going to try hard. And I love you. And I kept doing that like 5-6 times a day for months. And then months turned into years. And then one day I looked in the mirror and I said, Dwight, I love you. And a miracle happened. It wasn't a lie anymore. And for me, that, you know, I was really in a unique place. I moved into this group home, Nikinan group home. It was an all Indigenous group home, and there was like 5 guys who worked there, and they all had braids, and, you know, and it was the first time in my life where I really saw men around me who were Indigenous, who were happy and who were laughing and who made me feel safe. And the word Indian changed for me. It used to mean like Indian was like someone who sucks or someone who's dangerous, whatever, but then it started to make me, the word Indian, like these guys were taking me to ceremony and teaching me about my culture, and the word Indians started to mean someone who cares about me, someone who loves me, someone who cares about not just me, but my kids. They really they just poured into me. And it's not to say that like positive Native men weren't around me, but I never saw them. You know what I mean? Because I was looking around with the blinders on. When you got a belief, you look for stuff to reinforce that belief, to make it true. So like if you believe that like that people hate me because I'm black, or because I'm Native, or because like anything, you'll look for things in the world to reinforce your belief. And so often like with beliefs, it's kind of what you were given for dinner, and then you just eat it because it's in front of you. And you never really look, a lot of us never really look up in the world to see, you know, what else is in the world for you, or what can you get from the supermarket and cook up in your own. A lot of us just believe in things blindly, and that's, you know, so I went to the group home, and, you know, I just wanted to be like those guys, you know, and that's when a point where I started to see a future for myself. Because back then I was like, you know, before then I was like, Dwight, I knew I was going to die when I was 15. And so if you're a little kid thinking like, yo, I'm going to die by the time I'm 15, you don't, like, do you care about fractions? Do you care about math? Do you care about going to school? Do you care about, like, you don't care about anything. And, you know, those things you say, they become your truths. in our culture, we say that like we have our sweat lodges and our pipes and all these strong medicines that were given to us by Creator. But the elders teach us that the strongest medicine you have is your words, and that's why we pray out loud. And so, I just want to be a part of that circle because, it changed my life just by people like sitting down and investing in me and just like, oh, Dwight, how's your day going? Listening to me, feeding me, taking me out, making me feel special, like taking me to ceremony and giving me opportunities to prove to myself that I had value. Whereas helping out with the lodge and stuff like that, like, oh, I have value because I can bring wood to the lodge. I can gather rocks. I can come early and start the fire. And that really, doing those things gave me an opportunity to learn that I have value. So, yeah.
That's really beautiful, man. So question, man. So these initial like men in that group home that influenced you, like, do you still have a connection with them today?
Yeah. Like shout out to Kirby Redwood. He runs a giant agency now, where he used to just run the group home, and now he runs Miskanawa and Mamo Tasquin, and they're agencies that help families get their children back when they're taken away by child welfare. And so I still connect with him, and there's lots of people who worked in the group home. Adrian Goulet, Reg Nipinak. I'm not as close with them anymore, but I still I know that I have people that I could call,
right,
which is a big deal for me.
That's really dope, man. You said something, man, that was really like, and then you kept like going into it, that like a truth, or what is it, like a belief is just like a statement that we've said to ourselves like long enough, like, so we believe it, right?
Yeah, I said it over and over till it's become your truth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes we say that to ourselves, or the community or TV will say that to ourselves. Like there's a lot of, like I run things, I run rap classes and teach songwriting like in the youth jails. Yeah. And we think about music and how it affects us and how it teaches us who we are. Like when you think about hip hop, like old hip hop, it used to be by like young men or young dads who wanted better for themselves and their kids. So they were bringing the news to the world, being like, yo, look at what's going on, because the news wasn't going there. And they were saying like, we want better. And when hip hop was bought, I'm gonna just say that, when hip hop was bought by these record companies, it was at the same time when jails were becoming privatized in the States. And these record companies and the jails, the record companies had giant shares within the privatized jail. And when you want to make money off something, off a jail, you need people in the jail. So who do we want in the jail? And so when you can control the thoughts of the people, you can control their actions. And that's when hip hop started to change. Because everybody likes, hip hop's good because, like, I'm not hating on hip hop at all. That part where it teaches you to be aggressive and that part of you, that side of you is good. I think that's beautiful, and you need a release. But when I'm working with these younger people, really feel like hip hop's changed a lot, because it used to say a bunch of gangster stuff, and then they sneak in a little nugget of knowledge to make you think about something. And nowadays, I feel like it's kind of just like, you're young, you're a POC, and this is your only way. So now we have young men growing up with no dads, and we're learning to be dads by Polo G, by and by shooters, by 17-year-old shooter kids. Those are our dads now. They're teaching us how to be men, and so we're missing that. Where you would used to have, some of those MCs were like your uncles. They were like your dads. Like when Pac died, I was feeling like I felt like I lost a family member, and like I was devastated. I remember like sitting in my front lawn crying like I lost a family member, or like the only person who like I felt like cared about me and taught me how to be strong and taught me how to be a man and taught me how to not put up with shit, and also care for my community. And so that was so I think when we're thinking about like how to be men and how things affect our mind, like, what are we essentially eating? What beliefs are we eating?
Yeah.
You know, are we eating poison? Are we eating stuff that's actually good for us just because it sounds dope? It's questionable now.
I saw something like Nipsey Hussle, like an interview he did while he was still alive, just saying like how like, you know, the people he grew up listening to, like the Jay-Z's and Nas's, like in a way, like, you know what I mean, they were about street shit, but you know, these men, the way they portrayed themselves, they could still, you know, they could still be looked at as role models
Big time.
for a young man. You know what I mean? Like Jay's whole thing was, you know, from the streets to being a rap mogul, right? And that's all Nas's music was about. It was about giving game.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how, like, you know, I guess what Nipsey was saying, like he was trying to bring back with his music, and he kind of what you're saying, like like today, you know, the people that these kids are listening to. It's same, you know, and you can say like Jay-Z and these guys, they were dabbling in crime, but again, like whoever the rapper of that, the 90s era and the rapper of today, you know what I mean? You're not looking, you know what I mean? You're not really looking at this today's guy. I don't want to mention any names, but today's guy, I feel like, and I think I've seen Russ said it before, you know, how like the archetype rapper before was the dealer, you know, and you know, you didn't even condone touching drugs. That was seen as a weakness. You know?
You get beat up.
Exactly. And then today's rappers, you know, it's cool to sip. Yeah. It's cool to do this, and you know, but you're still the dealer. You know what I mean? It's just showing how like it was, and there, you know, there are like contrasts to the two sides, because they, you know, in both eras, crime was still a prevalent part of the music. Yeah. But again, like the way these men portray, like, just, I mean, seeing the way a Jay-Z turned out. Jay-Z's in his 50s now. You know what I mean? Can we say like the 17-year-old rappers we're listening today are gonna turn out to be that way? In you know, and are leading the next generation to be that way. And one thing I was gonna add is kind of playing devil's advocate as well. Is I had seen an interview with Jay-Z a while, like when he dropped maybe his second commercial studio album, so in the 90s. Yeah. And you know, obviously he's a successful rapper now. He's on Def Jam, and the interviewer's asking him like, you know, you're successful now. Like, why are you still rapping about crime? You know, and he's talking about how, like, you know, it like what you're saying, like, you know, the news isn't talking about it, you know, and I feel like now that I have this platform, it would be wrong of me to stop like broadcasting what's going on in the neighborhood, you know. And so it's kind of playing devil's advocate to what we're saying here. It's like there is that. It would be nice if there is an appeal, you know, it's messed to say this, but there is an appeal to hip hop that is, you know, in the consumers of hip hop aren't in this world at all. They don't know crime. They don't, you know what I mean? And so that, you know what I mean? Even if, like you said, like, even if you are a Nas and all you want to do is give game, just sprinkling some crime on it makes it sexier. You know what I mean? And that's part of the allure of hip hop, right?
It's the formula, right? Yeah. Because you got to be, like, you want to represent, like, being tough, too, right? Like, I feel like that's always, like, I'm not going to listen to no sad, like, rap that's not making me feel, like a beast sometimes. Because sometimes you need that, right? Yeah. Like, sometimes
that's rap. That's what we want. You know, that's what we're here for. But yeah, I guess so. I guess so. What is your rebuttal to that? So just to make myself clear, basically, like, on the other side of saying, all right, we would like our rappers today to be more about, you know, more a role model type, you know, but how can you say that when we know that, if that's not my truth, but if that is your truth, you're the rapper who came from this past and you do talk about it in your music, how can you be a person of, you know what I mean? Like, how can they be someone respectable, be a role model, and still is there a balance, is what I'm asking you?
Yeah, well, I think there is a balance. So like, how can like today's younger guys like come back with it, with some knowledge? I really think it comes down to industry, like who's running the industry. Because if all of a sudden hip hop was like started producing music that was mainstream, that would had more nuggets in it, then people would start copying that. Because we got guys like in Calgary who've never even touched a gun.
Yeah.
And
It's the wave, like the drill wave is doing well, and I know,
right.
you know, and not to call anyone, but there's a lot of, like you said, like, you know, guys were hopping on these drill beats, talking about this life, right? Like,
and I think that's what it used to be like. Like hip hop used to really be, it was like about being super authentic. And so like if you're not a gangster, you didn't do gangster rap. You know, if you were a player, you did rap about being a player. If you were, you know, like it was a little bit different. And nowadays, I think we're allowed to make a little bit more fiction, which is actually kind of freeing in a way when you're creating your art. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a reflection of this, just where we're at as a people.
so let me ask you this. Do you think the label is pushing this agenda then? Because we've established that the rappers that are at the forefront, this is what they want to rap about. But are you also saying that the label has this agenda, like, to keep the next generation of black youth, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to make sure we're just pushing the hardest, you know what I mean? Like,
100%. Like America has the most incarcerated people in the entire world. And they don't have the biggest population. They're the most incarcerated people in the world. And it's filled with blacks, Latinos, and like Native people. And Native people are Latinos are indigenous people, right? They just have a different history when you compare it to indigenous people in Canada. And so like the penitentiaries are still packed, and they're still generating money, and the record companies are still owning it. So like, you know, when somebody goes in and takes over a country, what's the first thing they take over? The radio stations, the TV stations.
yeah.
They take over what you're eating in your mind, and it's an immediate campaign of brainwashing. And so right now, we're trying to break free of a brainwashing of, oh, you're a Native kid, you're a black kid, you have two options to be successful, right? It's like, be a rapper, be a shooter, sell dope, you know, where it's not encouraging, like, sell shirts, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to get your hustle on, like it's like there's only 3 hustles for hip hop heads nowadays that are kind of advertised, right? Where it's like, where's the hip hop heads who sell computers, who own McDonald's, who run charities, you know what I mean? Like, hip hop, the original is like peace, love, unity, and having fun. Like, those were the 4 kind of things of hip hop, and like values, and those values were made by not some soft ass dudes. Like, those values were made by hard motherfuckers. Like, you know, and I know hip hop kind of gets mixed up sometimes. Like, oh yeah, and they dance to like solve gang wars and stuff. It's like, nah, like those like rocking and breaking, like, and those early hip hop kind of parties, like, those were dangerous places to be. But still, out of all of that, those core foundational values came from that. And so I think that's like, it came at a time when like New York was like, it was falling apart, right? Like, what they have in the Bronx, like over 6,000 empty buildings, like looked like a war zone. Every building's on fire, you know. It's gang kind of like gangs are running it. Savage Skulls are running it. To get into Savage Skulls, you have to fucking, you know what I mean? You have to play Russian roulette and put one to your head, and pull the trigger, and that's how you get in the gang. Yeah. And then that gang later turned into the Zulu Nation. So and then after that, the Zulu Nation became the biggest security company in New York. And so like, at that time when the mob ran New York, the fire station they ran, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the construction, all the garbage, like everything. To be a security company, like you had to be solid, right? And those are the guys who made up, those values. And so I think it's just interesting because I wonder, like, let me ask you, who owns hip hop?
It's definitely like some white guy that we don't know his name, right? Like, remember, like, I remember
It could be, right?
100%, like, because we know, like, major artists, the label sees a greater percentage, like, maybe the bigger you are, you have a bigger split, but still, like, they justify it for how much they put into marketing and all this stuff, so the label sees a bigger percentage than you.
Yeah.
And there's only 3 labels at the end of the day, Universal, Warner, and Sony.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's literally, like, a CEO and all those, and it's, like, some fucking old white guy, you don't know, like.
Yeah.
So that's
And I seen a thing too where these guys were rapping on the corner or whatever, and this guy went and asked them, like, why do you guys rap about this stuff? And they said because the labels won't listen to anything else.
I do agree with you. I can see that to some degree that the label is pushing this agenda, but man, like, I mean, like, if tomorrow, like, the label said they're just gonna push, like, all they're gonna push is, like, Kanye West types, like, Drake, I mean, no more, like, gangster rap, like, we'll still find that gangster rap,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because they're still gangsters.
We'll still go out of our way to be, like, you know what I mean? So I can't, you know what I mean? Like, I know, like, maybe it's because of the programming from years of doing it, maybe that's what it is, but I do feel like, even as philosophical as Pac was, and people even said, like, Pac never really grew up in the streets like that, like, but he understood that element of, like, connecting to the audience. He had to have those songs. Like, on an album where he would be talking about, hitting a lick with the boys, he's also talking about, like, fuck jail time and, people always say he always contradicted himself.
Yeah,
but I saw it as, like, he understood, like, his demographic and knew that he had to, like, cover all these bases. But so I do feel like even if the labels, like, the label does have an agenda, but even if the labels didn't, like we said, the hot shit is still in this stuff. And I was gonna say something. I remember I did see something like a comedian had said once. I cannot remember how like you're allowed to a black man is allowed to make a song about shooting another black man point blank, about murdering another black man, robbing another black man. But if he makes a song and in his lyrics he makes it clear, I went and shot this white guy, you know what I mean? Like,
done.
That's out. You're not allowed to do, you know what I mean? It's an unspoken thing, So we can say, yo, this nigga shot this nigga, like, all day in the records, but it's like, the label's like, yo, what is this?
So it's now culturally appropriate for blacks to talk about and feel it's okay to shoot and hurt people who look like themselves, but it's not appropriate for us to talk about doing that to another race. Now, I noticed that in myself the other day. I was teaching in Calgary Young Offender Center, and one of the boys said a homophobic thing, and one of the guys
freestyling or just
just freestyling, like stuff comes out, and just whatever, like. So one of the guys said a homophobic thing. One of the guys was like really talking nasty about a girl and stuff like that, and I realized that I was triggered. Because usually when I hear like homophobic, racist, or sexist things, I'm like, that's a boundary for me. And I noticed that in the session. So I just paused everybody and I was like, yo, I just want to like ask you guys a question because I'm trying to learn something about myself. But I noticed that I was triggered like when someone said a racist thing, when somebody said a homophobic thing, when somebody said a sexist thing. But I wasn't triggered when you guys were killing this imaginary other person who's just like you. I'm like, does that mean I love you guys less? Or I care about you less than these other things? And I'm not sure. And it's just, it's cultural conditioning. And I think finding a way out of that, when we can find a way out of that, because people say like Native love, Latino love, brown pride, Black Lives Matter. But then you go to a Black Lives Matter protest and then you jump in your car and what are you listening to? You put on a track about and you're jamming to it. Like, fuck that guy who looks just like me. Let's get him. So do Black Lives really matter? You know what I mean? Like from a cultural perspective, in your heart and in your head.
I mean, so I feel like, so to solve, I mean, at the end of the day, if what you're saying is that we have been programmed, and it's just been so long since the 90s, like over 20 years of hip hop.
Yeah. Before that.
Of commercial hip hop, like programming us, like at this point, like even if, you know, they do put a black guy on the top position, he says like no more of this shit, or you know, a person of color, and you know what I mean, like it becomes, I'm just saying, like, is it because we are so programmed to it that we won't be able to be like, nah man, we need
even me you know? Like I'm saying this stuff, even me, I'll be like, where's it at? Like
it'll be like illegal mixtape sites like gangsta shit.
Right? And I think we just need to look at where we're at as a culture. So like 1491, you know, back before then, you know, people didn't look at color as much. They looked at religion, they looked at like your language, but it wasn't really like a stratified system until Christopher Columbus came here and he landed in a place called Haiti, and it was just indigenous people who lived there. There was no and then, you know, all the people got sick and whatever and were enslaved and getting their hands cut off and all sorts of crazy shit. And news was coming back to the Queen of Spain, and people were like, "Yo, like," they were telling Christopher Columbus, like, "You're going too far."
Like jogging off those hands and shit.
Yeah, and they were terrible. So if they're saying like, "Yo, you're going too far," so in order to justify it, and once all the native people either fled, got sick, or ran away, there wasn't enough workforce, and then they started taking slaves from Africa, coming here, and people were like, "What's going on?" And that's when things like, that's when the church, no one was allowed to read the Bible at that time. And it was like, if you read the Bible or had a Bible, you would be killed. That was only for the Pope, who was the hand of God, the Word of God. And then the Pope, they started using artists to make something called race charts. And at the top of the race charts, they had angels, and then they had white people, and then it got darker and darker and darker, and then they had black people, and underneath black people they had monsters. And so these race charts started to justify being able to treat someone differently. And so if you can villainize a people, then you can make it okay in everybody else's mind to treat them badly, to control them, to house them in ghettos, to not give them clean drinking water, to create slaves out of them, to not be like, holy shit, the murder rate in this specific neighborhood is worse than the murder rate in the Gaza Strip. But because we've been conditioned to villainize POCs, it's okay. But let me tell you, if there was an all-white neighborhood where all of a sudden the same stuff in our community started happening, the school system teaching was brought down to an illegal rate, there wasn't clean water, people started, we injected crack into the community, and all the doctors and leaders became addicts, there would be a serious intervention. There wouldn't be a war on drugs, which meant a war on people who look like us, not a war on the systematic problem. There would be, it would be different if that happened in a different community. And it stems from these race charts. And it stems from the casta paintings where we learned how to categorize each mixture of person. What a mulatto is, or what this is, and even...
I don't know if it's because it just seems like a theme in the human history, right? Of like, I mean, you say like prior to Columbus coming, it wasn't really about color, but I guess it was just indigenous people, right? So it couldn't have been. But I just feel like in the history of humans, like whenever there's shade, whenever it's like, and because it's like it's human nature to judge, right? And
Yeah.
So I do feel like this is the first time hearing of this chart with demons in, but you know what I mean? It doesn't sound unbelievable knowing like humans
That's
have
right.
this notion to be racist, you know what I mean? So it doesn't, and you know what I mean? That chart just seems like a legitimate way to use religion, you know what I mean? To be, you know what I mean? So I can't fuck with you because like you're closer on the demon chart than I am.
Yeah,
right?
you're
Like,
damn near a monster.
yeah.
Right?
And in your mind that sounds logical, and that's, but it's like, it's weird, man. And I feel like, and this is why we study history, I feel like it's so important, like, because we will always like, because like, I feel like if we don't study history, the human race will just fall back into this pattern, right? Where something as dumb as this chart can exist again, right? And if we all don't stay like, yo, there've been dumbasses that have tried this before and it didn't, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's, I see what you're saying, man, and I do feel like, yeah, it is just humanity, man. Like, I feel like it is just human nature, man.
And it's not anything either against like oh, white people came here and did that, like, because they were like, before they came here, like they came out of the dark ages, so they're all traumatized and taking over each other and doing the same thing to each other, and even on this side, indigenous people were doing the same thing. So maybe like it is. Like, we look at indigenous culture, sometimes it's like it's this, this pure holy thing, but there was some things that were like, Blackfoot people, like, we're a warrior people.
Yeah.
And we did some like crazy stuff. But there's also, I think, out of all of it, when we come closer to death and when we come closer to life, we realize that love is like the most important thing always. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get in a car crash, your spirit leaves your body, you wake up in the hospital, you don't care about this sports team, you don't care about being a gangster, you're like, where's my mom?
Exactly, yeah.
That's what matters, that's the core of it, and so like, I guess we're just like, hip hop, I think sometimes it's just a reflection of what we currently think of it is to be a man. It's kind of a male thing. Like, it's more of a
That's
male
a really
thing.
interesting perspective, man.
Yeah.
But I think of how, like, I've been listening to hip hop for as long as I can remember, man.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
And I do think of how, like, all through every aspect of my life, I've listened to music, and I do think of how, like, all the rappers I listen to, you don't think of it, I'm a Lil Wayne fan, you don't think of how much, like, when nowadays, like, you have the Spotify recap and you realize like how much time you're spending with an artist just on your downtime.
Yeah.
And obviously, and I just think like when I was a kid, I was listening to I had so much more time to listen to music. So it's just like, it's crazy how, that's just my favorite artist, but you don't realize how much, you give this guy so much of your attention. You're allowing this person to influence you, and on some fundamental level, you have to, even if you're like, no, that's just the music I fuck with, especially with rap. If you're listening to a rapper over this person, aligns with your ideology.
Yeah.
You idolize this person in a way, and that's music in general, right? And so, it is the power of it's man. That's really an interesting way to put it. That
Yeah.
rap is just like, just how did you put it again?
It's a reflection of like what we think it is to be men, and it sneaks in values and beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And it's just things we don't think about, right? And so, like, I mean, if rap were shut off for, like, imagine if it just shut off for a while, like a year, and all we had was Bob Marley. You know what I mean? Would rap come out different next year?
What do you mean rap just shut off?
Like, imagine if it just disappeared, and then all of a sudden all we had was Bob Marley telling us to get up, stand up for our rights. Let's get together. Let's feel all right. Like, and now all of a sudden we're taking Bob Marley's values and beliefs for a full year.
I see what you're saying. Oh, you mean like in present time?
In present time, and then we all got conditioned by Marley for a year.
I just feel like the conditioning is so deep. You know what I think about, man? Like how the human race has existed for thousands of years, but this phenomenon that is hip hop and is literally controlling the world as we speak and is only going to keep growing. is only, you know, not even like 70 years old, or you know what I mean, like from when like DJ Hurt, you know, the guys that went with
it's not even
the vinyl. It's not, you know what I mean. It's so powerful. There's so many facets to it. There's so many people who have devoted their life to this thing, but it's, you know, it's just such a young thing, you know what I mean? Like,
and that's the thing, like I might feel like I'm talking shit right now, because like, you know, I'm the old guy now, right? And I feel like when I was a kid listening to what I thought had knowledge in it and stuff like that, you know, the older people were like, what are you listening to? So maybe I've become the old guy to be like, there's no knowledge in trap. There's no, you know, like it's good for me to do some self-reflection. Like, am I being a fucking hater?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I very well might be, right? Like, and like, you know, because you know, people are doing it and they're making art and it's fun.
I feel like we're playing both sides of it, because at the end of the day, I also, you know, I see some of these rappers and I'm just like, did you just get a record deal because you trapped? Like, it doesn't seem like it's because of the music. You know,
it's Instagram nowadays. It's
you know
image.
what I mean? And like, but you know, but the music is doing good. You know, like that person is, you know, that person has fans. There are people,
right?
There are people who say that, yo, I connect with this person's music. You know, and so who are we to say, like, you know what I mean? Like, that guy isn't a role model like Jay-Z was in the 90s.
Right.
The kid of today, I would like to think, isn't like, even the guy who we say is flawed, like, man, he's, you know, he's on drugs all the time. All he talks about is Percocets and sipping drugs. Like, I'm sure there's a kid who can siphon through the bullshit and be like, you know, this guy has dropped. Sometimes when he's really low, he talks about like his, you know, like Future has like his really like introspective, like, man, you know,
and like
records like that, right?
Yeah, and like for me, I grew up always listening to and trying to search and find like the socially kind of conscious rap, like Goody Mob, Soul Food. That was my jam. Coolio, It Takes a Thief. You know, that's what really got me into rap. Like, I remember hearing the song "A Can of Corn" and I was making fun of it. It's like a can of corn, a can of corn. All I had for dinner was a can. So I come in the room like rap sucks. Because like when I was a kid, like I was born in '83. So when I was a kid, what was tough was like Guns N' Roses, even Michael Jackson, because he was bad. Like I was grade 1, right? Grade 1, he's staying, he's bad. And then all of a sudden, I remember this group called Crisscross came out. And I was like, Ninja, Rambo, Guns N' Roses. That's what being tough is. That's what being cool is. And then Crisscross came out, and I liked their song, but
Crisscross to make it
jump.
Yeah.
But then all the kids started coming to school, all the grade 6ers, I'm in grade 1. They all started coming wearing their pants backwards and low. And I'm like, you can't kick when you have your pants like that. You're not a ninja, you're weak now. You're a punk. And that's what I thought about rap. And so anyways, so fast forward a bit, I'm listening to A Can of Corn with that mind frame. And making fun of it, and then someone's like, yo, he's rapping about being hungry. And so I took that tape and I listened to it later when no one was around, and I felt like Coolio was telling our family story. And I was like, I've been hearing, but I haven't been listening. And you know, like, and even in it, like, even in this stuff, like in that song, he's like, now that I'm older with kids of my own, I put meat in the pot where there used to be a bone. And I remember hearing that, like, that was a value and a nugget that stuck with me. Like, even though my life is so shitty right now, we got nothing. Like, when I get older, I'm gonna fucking be something. Like, and even though, like, that was the type of shit that kept me living, even though I thought I would die when I'm 15. You know what I mean? That type of shit was the stuff that made me look in the mirror and say, I love you. Because I had those values instilled in me by some of these OGs. You know, man. Coolio wasn't soft, man. Like
yeah, that's really dope, man. That like fucking, all those guys, those are actual like fucking like lyrical rappers, and it's crazy, man. Like you just said that, you know, you were hearing it, but you weren't listening, man. And that's the thing about bars, man. That's I feel like that's the poetry part of like hip hop, right? Where it's like, you know, it's so much more than like when a guy's a really good lyricist, when there's, you know, when you can, you know what I mean? When the bars are tight, and there's really so much more than just like, you know, there's the song aspect of it, which, you know, if it's a song we can play in the club, whatever the song is good for. But like when you have those moments where you're like, I'm just gonna sit down and like ours, that's when you're like, you know what I mean? Oh
Yeah.
shit, this is so much more.
And yo, maybe that's where I am with trap and stuff now. With the new music, I'm hearing it, but I'm not really listening to it because I haven't gave it a chance.
Yeah.
I realized that just now in this conversation. Like, I'm that, grade 4 being like, kind of corn, this shit's stupid. When like really as like, like listen to these news stories.
And I do feel like, the guys who are killing right now, Lil Baby and NBA Youngboy, those are like the guys in the commercial game that are the hard rappers. And I listened to Lil Baby's album. I checked it out. It was hard. And NBA's music, I check it out, but I feel like it's not connecting for me. But but their fans go crazy for them. So what I'm starting to understand is there are street rappers that I like that are more like, more of a different era, right? They do the more of a boom bap rap, right? That I'm much prefer. I almost feel like for the kids of today, this is what, you know what I mean? Like this, as I would listen to that, like this is what the kids of today listen to. Like it has to have melody, has to, but they're still getting, hopefully, that same game I would have been getting from the 90s,
because they're hearing like I play boom bap beats sometimes when I'm teaching, and they're like, yo, that sounds old, and I'm like, oh yeah, like they're probably hearing it like the way like our generation might hear like everybody in the house in the place to be, throw your hands up, like that old stuff, like the first seed stuff, and we might be hearing that like, oh yeah, that's cool, but I'm like, it's not me.
Man, I remember when Lil Uzi went to like Ebro's radio station. That was like a famous. They got like trolled there because he went there. He said to them like, Ebro was like, "Are you gonna freestyle?" I was like, "I told you I was gonna freestyle, play some beats." And he started like playing some like classic like hip hop beats. Yeah. And he was like, "I told you before this, man. I'm not gonna rap at any of these beats." And Ebro was obviously just trying to like sandbag him and be like, "Nah, man, you gotta rap." And he's like, "I know what my fans want. They don't want to hear me on this shit, man." And then he finally played some trap shit and he started doing. He's like, "What?" Just started doing his like flows and shit. And you know what I'm saying? Basically, Ebro just like, this was like Uzi just getting on, like, and really like just like, you're not gonna have a career. Just ripped him apart. Like, Uzi's a huge thing now. Yeah. And it's just, it kind of shows that like, he himself was fully aware. Like, I understand that what you think this should be. Like, but he's like, the people that are gonna be tuning in to see me, they have a different perception. And at this point, like even the rap, like, we're just going over the Grammys the other day, and it's a new thing in the last couple of years where there's now best rap performance of the year and there's now best melodic rap performance of the year.
Oh, word.
And there's a couple of best rap song and best melodic rap song.
Yeah.
And so that kind of justifies where if best rap song went to a J. Cole and best melodic rap song went to a Roddy Ricch,
that would make sense.
You know what I mean? And I feel like it's because that is what hip hop is right now. It's like, even though there's like, oh man, this new guys can't rap. What it is hip hop is still hip hop, but there's just this new wave
evolving,
and so there's demographics that you might meet a kid today and he says all I do is listen to rap, and he'll list 20 rappers off the top of you, like what the fuck?
Yeah, who's Blueface?
And I feel like that's the disconnect. Is there's another guy like us who listen to rap and we'll list all the spitters, and but I do feel like that's the balance in hip hop. I do feel like I hope that the kids, like just like we're saying, because maybe we're not tapped in that much, but I do believe on some level, because these guys are so big, they are getting this like, and it's because maybe we are older that there is that, when you were younger listening to pop, your older heads are asking you what are you listening to, and just listening to some of that, that new wave stuff. So that might be how we're perceiving this like Lil Baby shit.
Yeah, and I could translate it too, like Snoop back in the day, like people used to say like he's super hard on women and stuff like that.
He was.
But my interpretation, the way I was reading that, is like it is don't settle. Have high standards. Keep your head high.
Yeah.
Build yourself up. Be a G. Get strong, and then you can then you can have a partner who's like
Bro, man, I'm like listening to. I'm now looking at it with what you're saying. Like rap is just a reflection of like what it means to be a man, and just even you saying that, like just he's just talking about like how people perceive it as you being disrespectful to women, but you're just like, nah, this is you're as a young man, you're like, nah, I gotta be a G, and like, you know what I mean, like, so that's the message you're getting from this.
Yeah, work hard, get strong. Like that song, like, bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I was like getting like, don't ever get played. Don't like, cause like a lot of people in the community, like we've seen like, there was a lot of guys who would get kind of like, I used to call them rubs when I was a kid, who like, oh yeah, this guy pays my rent. This guy, I'm gonna call this guy up. He's gonna come over. He's gonna bring us beer, and he just come like basically like just being used. And Snoop taught me to never be like that. Be like, believe in yourself. Like, love yourself enough not to like whatever. Like, you're beautiful, but he's like, you gotta respect me.
Game, yeah, man.
Like, that's what I got from all like listening to Snoop.
Shout out Snoop. For those who don't know, we got a fucking Snoop in the corner here, like a life-size Snoop in the corner just watching over us.
and so maybe I'm not decoding the new, and I just be some old grumpy guy. You need to listen to this.
Hopefully, like there's a younger guy watching this or listening, and he's getting some perspective. But I have to believe on some level, you know what I mean? Like we are just like, we've not, like you said like just during this conversation, I realized like, you know what? I don't think I really actually listened to a Lil Baby album and really trying to like you said, listen to it. Like I've heard some of the songs, but you know what I mean? And I feel like that's probably the disconnect. One thing I wanted to ask you is I saw that you have an event coming up on the 27th.
On the 27th, yeah, so I don't really have an event. What I'm doing is I teach rapping and songwriting on Mondays, and I teach rapping and songwriting on Thursdays. So Mondays is downtown at Arts Commons from 5 to 8, and Thursdays is at Diamond Willow Youth Lodge every Thursday 5 to 8, and so. Yeah, we have dinner. It's free for everybody, and I think I just made it an event because I was trying to get more people to come out for the last day. Because we're gonna have break.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It looked good, man. So how did you? And this is something you do regularly. Or,
yeah.
Can you speak more about that?
Yeah. So I actually I'm a social worker, and before I was a social worker, like I was working in the helping field. Working with kids, running after school programs, teaching rap, and I really got into it just by, I was a towel setter before, and my dream was always like thinking about the group home. I want to be like those guys. So I was working with my buddy Dan, and I was always like, I'm gonna be a towel setter. I mean, I'm gonna be a youth worker one of these days, man. I'm not gonna have to do this, when your hand's stuck to the cutter, or like you're carrying tiles all day, or you're mixing dry pack, and like, one of these days I'm gonna be a youth worker. And then one day we were tiling McMahon Stadium, and we got in the car. We worked like 12-hour days, mixing dry pack all day. Dan had a broken ankle, and he shouldn't have been on the job site, and he was still like, one of these days I'm gonna be a youth worker. I'm not gonna have to do this. And Dan's like, Dwight, I've been working with you for like 7 years now, and you said you're gonna be a youth worker to me almost every day. So either you shut the fuck up about it or you go do it. I was like, all right. In a month from now, I'm not gonna be working for you. I had no plan, no clue what to do, and I was terrified. And then a couple days later, I was thinking about it, I was worried about what am I gonna do, how am I gonna support my family. I got a call, hey Dwight, I remember you used to rap when you were in the group home. You wanna teach a workshop? And so,
just like you didn't even reach out to him?
No, I didn't reach out to her, and she like it was just,
Damn.
It was just serendipity, and so I went to this training, and it was dope. And then we're sitting in the circle, and at the end of the training, they're like, "How are you going to use this training?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to go to school, and I want to be a youth worker. I want to do this for a living." And this girl, Frida Liberté, stood up, and she's like, "Here's my card. Call me on Monday." And like a week later, I was working in the field. So that was like 12 years ago, and I've been just doing it ever since. And now I run my own charity called the Tribe Artist Society. And we're really new, and I'm still learning. I feel like I'm a master at like running programs and just like having fun and creating growth in people and teaching art. I'm learning the admin side now to running a charity and the funding side, and you know, it's just a level up in my evolution.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I got into it. And
damn, man, this must be really like fulfilling for you.
Yeah. Well, you know, the admin stuff and ever since I opened the charity, I have not been happy. So I realized that my medicine is with the people.
Yeah.
And I need to hire somebody whose medicine, they went to school for business and fundraising, and they just like, they're gonna wake up every day and be like, I work for this agency, I'm gonna do their paperwork, like, you need a fundraiser, I'm made for this, and like, because I know I'm made for youth work and for like that's my medicine, it's my gift, and so I want to use it, and so that realization was just actually really new to me.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, I feel like I'm in the same. I make music as well, and then obviously I'm just in the first year of running the studio, and I do feel like I just took it with, for me, like when I said I was going to do a studio, in my mind that was just the engineering part of it, right? Like the actual working on music, but there is the, you know, back end, making sure I'm doing enough ads for conversion, making sure like I had to learn that, making sure I'm balancing my books and making sure I'm like making, you know, keeping track of taxes and shit like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not like, I've grown into it, but I feel like I definitely felt there was like, I was like, oh shit, you know, like this is,
I'm a baby right now.
But like, I 100% understand what you mean, man. But yeah, man, it's also important to make those realizations, right? Where it's like, you know, because you could just be like, no, I want to run this by myself, you know, and
you can waste 5 years on something that doesn't make you happy.
Exactly. So I'm glad that, so it looks like you understand that. A bit more about your program. So what are the age groups of the kids?
Oh yeah, so it's like 14 to like 29-ish. Sometimes we let some younger guys come in, younger guys, girls, people, humans, but it kind of depends on maturity level. Because if we have a young cat in the room, then the older people won't be able to fully express themselves sometimes in an appropriate way, and we just like want to keep that freedom. Because like, you know, when a white kid drops the N-bomb, we wanna talk about that. We want to do some learning. We want to help some growth, some understanding. You know, when kid comes fresh out of jail and is in program and just going crazy and saying all wild stuff, like we want to talk about that. Like, and I think that's like really important to be in spaces where you can talk and be like, and not like, it's not like about teaching appropriate, like what's appropriate to say, but it's like, is this real to you? Are you authentically being yourself, or are you being a clone of what you think you should be? And so it's always like the whole work is around checking your truths and being like, are they actually your truths? And if that is a truth, is it bringing you up or is it bringing you down? Because like my mission statement for the organization is to help artists become their most powerful selves. So a lot of times, like I just teach that through hip hop, and we have great conversations, you know, and like sometimes conversations go from like, you know, saying something homophobic to talking about like yo, none of us have dads. Like, so where do we, you know, like how do we become men? So it's like, it's interesting, but it's not like most of the time we're just rapping and whatever, but those moments when they do come up, it's so dope to just talk about it and be like, you know, you don't got to change what you're saying. You can say it in your next rhyme right after this conversation, but let's think about it, you know, some of that knowledge. So like, because I'm learning all the time too. Like even this conversation is like helping me learn out my bias about trap.
No, man, that's really good. So I guess just what are some of the, if you don't mind, like some of the programs, like some of the things that you do, like during when you're running it? Yeah.
So a lot of times, like it depends on who's in the room. If there's a whole bunch of people who are comfortable with freestyle, then maybe we'll start with freestyle as the easy thing.
Right.
Sometimes you get a whole room full of writers, and they're like, I'm not freestyling. And so I created 2 methods of teaching songwriting, and I'm really about teaching songwriting. Like I don't even really see myself as a rapper. I see myself as a songwriter. And so we teach, like the freestyle method is a way to create songs really fast and easy, and the freestyle writing method is for the writers who don't really like to freestyle. And it's basically the same thing, but like you can cook up a song with like 3 people in 15 minutes, full. Like, and that's what I'm able to teach. And I teach about like the reps of creating songs too, because the way I see creating songs is like working out. It's not showtime where you're all greased up and flexing. That's your performance time. That's your recording. Writing songs is the gym. So sometimes, like for me, when I was writing my album, I think I wrote like, I must have wrote at least 50 or 60 songs. And I allowed myself, before even getting into it, it's like, because I found my writer's block. And I'm just like, because I had this expectation of perfection. And then I was like, no, I'm going to allow you to write 25 shitty songs. Once I did that, I started writing songs. And the majority of them were pretty dope, at least to me. And so I give my reps, and I really think that like, writing a song 4 lines at a time, 2 lines at a time, man, you'd be so surprised.
I think you were the one that gave that to me. I do that now, man. Like I write like all a 16-bar verse, it's 4 bars.
Yeah.
I just write in 4. And yeah, I recently had to write like a fucking like for the Homies project. I don't know, I guess. I shit you not, man. Like what? Almost like 72 bars. Like we're doing that storytelling track.
Damn.
Me and his verse are like 9 minutes like together. So, but yeah, and like that's the only thing that made that possible was like so that I could still keep track and like not lose myself. And at one point it was like, all right, since I'm telling the story, every 4 bars is like, all right, now I'm in this part of the story. I mean, and it gave, you know what I mean? So you definitely gave me that, man. So that's
sick.
You definitely know what you're doing, man. And so I guess I didn't want to interrupt you there, but what is the difference? You said you don't even see yourself as a rapper. You see yourself as a songwriter. What would you say the difference is, what would you say the difference is to you?
Well, I think like there's people like there's definitely MCs who just rap, and I feel like they're the guys who are more about the bars. And there's people like there's people who write raps and they don't write raps to beats, and they'll write. I was working with this one dude, and he's like, I wrote 1,500 bars and no beat, and that's like, so it's like, oh, how do you take that and and put that, create a song out of it? And I think that's a new skill, and I think that's kind of it, is like being able to package something like, you're a dope rapper, now how do you put a song together? And some people just find it challenging, right? Like I'll find it challenging to write 1,500 bars. Like you asked me to do that, like I can't do that. I mean, I can, but I have a mental blocker to get past, and sometimes just teaching to get past that mental blocker. And like there's fantastic, songwriters everywhere, right? And I think a lot of it was I spent a lot of time on YouTube learning about pop song structure. And how it's changed, and then I spent a lot of time. I took the like how to rap course, and learning about hip hop song structure, and then nowadays hip hop song structure, and so like a lot of
how to rap the YouTube guy.
Yeah. I bought his course and I did everything.
I follow that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. And Drew Marcy, that's his name. And so I think that's kind of it. It's just being able to get it structured, because I watched a little thing where, Pitbull, Irv Gotti used to own a record label called Murder Inc. And he saw Pitbull freestyling, and he's like, he went up to Pitbull, he didn't know him, he saw Pitbull, he's battling and stuff, and Irv Gotti went up to Pitbull and said, like, do you write songs? And Pitbull's like, nah, man. He's like, all I do is freestyle, man. All I do is battle, and that's it, like, And Irv Gotti's like, that's cool, man. But the thing about freestyles is that they're free. You can't sell them, right? Like, you can't have a body of work.
Sounds like a hustler, just
like. And honestly, for the longest time, I was a freestyler. Like I didn't make songs. I just freestyled, and now.
No, sorry, I kind of stopped you there. So you said, you were saying like he responded to him saying like thing about freestyles is that the freestyles are free.
Yeah, and they are, yeah. And so I was kind of the same way for the longest time. I was just a freestyler. Nothing wrong with being just a freestyler, but I didn't feel like an artist because I didn't have a body of work. I had moments at the bus stop where I would freestyle in front of people at the bus stop and create a song in the moment, and then it was gone. And so I really looked at rap and hip hop just as moments that were dope. In the kitchen when Mike said that line and we all pissed ourselves laughing, and like that's what I like about hip hop. It's just those moments. But people were like, yo, you're, like we heard you rap, like where's your stuff? And I started to feel like I don't have a body of work. So like, am I really an artist? And so yeah, or can I perform? And I want to perform, So I started working on it. So I guess that's the difference to your question.
And I guess the answer, like just to pick your brain, like now since I have someone who understands songwriting on that level, is I definitely feel like I got into rap because of Eminem, so I got into rap because of bars. And so I had a rap book and I was trying to write over like Eminem songs.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I definitely got into rap or songwriting from I'm a rapper first, I just write, I always had punchlines, I always like, just even if it's just a line, I'm like, oh, that's gonna be a good ending to a verse, I'll just write it down, right? And then eventually I kind of transitioned into writing songs, but I still kind of feel like, I feel more like, I kind of see what you're saying with, I do feel more of a rapper than a songwriter most of the time, because like, you know what I mean? If I have an idea for a thing, I can write a 32 bar verse about it before I can, be like, all right, this is gonna be a song and a bridge, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To it, and so I guess to pick your brain about this is like, what is one way like you can convert an idea into a song, like, or like a freestyle?
Yo, so for me is and first of all, the idea of you have your stacks of books at home and whatever of rhymes that are dope, and you don't want to. You're looking for a reason to use them. Those are all garbage. Those were practice.
Yeah.
Because those will hold you back. I swear I spent like 2 years trying to find beats to fit songs or rhymes, or trying to fit a rhyme into something else, and it just doesn't work for me.
No, I believe that. 100%.
And so a lot of times I just play beats, and what I love about BeatStars is I can go through 100 beats in one day and nobody's feelings hurt. And I just go through beats and I find beats that whisper me the chorus, that give me the chorus. And sometimes I can force it, like I can't force it, but I just I'll listen to the beat and like, hey, yo, what's the video look like? Songs, words, colors, names, pictures, what's coming on? You're like, shit, this beat's like, I'm seeing blue and electric, Fly Girl, and then you write a song. Like I always start with the chorus or the title, because the way I see writing songs very much like the medicine wheel. Like if you have 4 MCs and each is on their own side of the medicine wheel and they're writing, they all have to be writing towards the same thing, and that's the chorus. And what you can do is everybody knows the topic we're writing, the viewpoint we're writing from. Everybody can write towards that, and that'll be a song. And the neat thing about that is if everybody knows that, what I can do is every 4 lines, I could cut their rhymes up. And I can mix and match them and place them any order, and it's still dope.
That's something you told me, I remember from the last time, and that's why I even started the method. You're like, if you can get the verse down in 4 bars, if you can just get 4 dope bars down, just rearrange, you have any orders, you know what I mean, it will work. And it's true, like, as long as each verse, each of those bars is complete, like, it's definitely that's definitely an interesting way. So even you take it that step further, when there's more writers on the song, you can say, all right, the intro to your verse is dope, it's now going to go into this guy's end of the verse as a bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And the hook will keep, you know what I mean? So that's... Yeah,
I'll line them up, and I'll move them around. I'm like, okay, chorus here, and then you, and then chorus, and then you, if everybody's only wrote 4 or 6 bars. And then I'll just mix and match them together. Especially with new writers, it's really a neat thing. And so yeah, I think that's a way to transform from a rapper to a songwriter. Is get your reps in. Allow yourself to, just start with a chorus, and sometimes that's just your first rhyme. Like, oh, yo, this is, you think of your first word and you repeat it. And that's what your song's about. Fuck off, get out of my way, I'm trying to have a better day. Fuck off, get out of my way, I'm trying to have it. I was like, I'm not the best songwriter, but I found a way to write songs. And it's made me feel like a songwriter.
That's important. That's what it is, dude. Because that's the whole creative process on any level, it's always going to be, it's creativity, so everyone's going to do it differently. So you having a process, it's just, it's just part of it. And as you grow as well, you're going to expand on your process, right? No, but that's very interesting, and man, it's given me a lot to think about as a writer. One thing that definitely just stuck with me, what you said, is definitely like, I noticed this, like especially when I was writing my debut album, was I'm trying to write bars, or I have bars written, I'm like, this is some really dope shit. Yeah. And I have a dope beat, and I'm trying to like, all right, I can hear these 4 bars on this beat, and I can hear. But it would always take me out. Sometimes I'll make it work, but it would just take me so long to write the verse because it's not organic. Like I'm trying to like fit this, or maybe the beginning of the verse had this narrative, and I'm like, all right, how am I gonna get to this bar now? You know what I mean? Because
you're living in the past, right? And creators trying to give you something, and your old books are literally blocking that creative vibe. That
I found that I still have like in my phone, I still write like I'll always have punchlines come to my head. I'll write some shit down. But I always, and I've always done that from when I started rapping. And so even when I'm writing a rap to some beat someone just gave me on the spot, I can always be like, if I have a bit of writer's block, I can reference those like my lines. But I found like, especially trying to grow as a songwriter, like man, not because again I was writing a verse, so it would be just bars. Yeah. Trying to grow as a songwriter, I found like I can write a song faster if I say, I'm not gonna go back to any of my notes. Like everything I'm going to do is gonna come from the inspiration from this beat. Yeah. Right? Because when I just find like whenever I'm trying to be like, all right, I have this many dope lines, man. There's enough to make a song out of these dope lines, but it's like, I'm trying to fit it in here. Whereas, you know what I mean? Like as opposed to like when I allow myself to just feel it, like you said, I like what you said, like the beat will whisper the chorus to you sometimes. Like you just listen to it and like, yo, this is the fucking chorus. Like,
you're driving and you start singing and you're like, I always got the app on my phone, my screen phone. Record, boom, because it's always when I'm driving.
Like something about like when you're just how your mind is like
you're clear,
like you're driving,
right?
Your mind just starts to go into different. Same thing in the shower, right? Like,
I get it when I'm brushing my teeth. Yeah. The answers come when I'm brushing my teeth. The rhymes come when I'm driving. Like,
and it must come from a fucking like higher place or something, man. I don't know, like.
Yeah, man. But, I mean, the Romans or Greeks believed that it was like there was a thing that gave you all of your creativity. Like it wasn't even yours. Damn. And so it's neat.
I would believe that, but yeah, man. Sorry, just to add to that, I watched a recent Netflix. Netflix has this docuseries called Explained. Oh. So it's like it explained. They always, and I think they do it weekly, but they always explain like random things, like a 20-minute episode. So they explain creativity, and they basically said there's like 2 parts of the brain. There's the part of the brain that is working off is almost like the structured part of the brain, and then there's a part of the brain that just allows ideas to flow, like ideas just come out of like different places. And when someone's being creative, they're working on the two of those sides of the brain are what's working together. And interesting in the documentary, they said like they studied the brain waves of rappers while they were freestyling publicly. Yeah. And they noticed that the part of the brain that is actually like, focused, that will do the writing and thinking, is actually quieter during that time, and it's more the other part that is allowing ideas to flow. So just to reiterate, like that maybe it is coming from some other source. Yeah. Because like the way they describe it is like that little part of that still has like some focus and like concentration. All that's doing is guiding so that the rhymes are coming out clearly, right? But I'm sure like you've been to Cypher Club, like a lot of the guys like Z like can just go for hours, or I can tell she's not writing it in her head. It's almost like she's just like free, allowing it to come. So it's there. I do believe that there is some truth, even on a scientific level, to that we are channeling it.
Yeah, like and sometimes when I'm freestyling too, like like I was at Cypher Club the other day, and it was my turn to rap, and I just closed my eyes, and I sat at a desk in my eyes, and there was a piece of paper, and I had a pencil in my hand. I started rapping about that, and then I just started writing about what I was drawing, and folded it up, and then I put it on the shelf, and then I was like, oh, save that for a better day or something. Like, I don't remember, but like oh yeah, and I moved the lamp too when I was rapping, and like, so I was just in my picture.
Yeah, you were inside that moment.
Yeah,
even like, yeah, it's crazy. You know what I mean? And it's, I brought this up because I know that, going back to what we're saying about songwriting, that when you hear the beat for the first time, that ability to just write a song to it comes from not coming with any you know what I mean, preconceived ideas, you know what I mean, and just allowing it to flow from wherever it's coming from, right?
Right, and that's why I love BeatStars too, because I noticed I used to get beats from producers a lot, and it weighed heavy on me.
No, because you got this beat from this guy.
Yeah, and I care about them, and it's a dope piece of art, but then it's like, it's not whispered to me. Like, it might be whispered to somebody else, and they might, because I've passed on beats, and then like my friends write the wickedest song. Like, how did you turn that piece of shit beat into fucking this, man? Like, and it's just like, I can only see what I can see, right? And
No, I feel that, and I do feel like definitely got homies that are down to write to any beat.
Yeah.
But I am one of those people who I really like. I feel like Nas had a bar. He said like, $1 million for a Nas feature. Nah, Nas is cheaper. Do it for free if you do it if you do it for me. A 72 bar verse if I'm feeling the beat.
Like,
So just basically speaking, like, yo, because Nas is this critically acclaimed rapper, you would think it's like this much, but he's like, basically in those bars, it's like, look, I would damn near do it for free if you give me a beat that I'm like, damn, bro, I gotta get off 72 bars on this, you know? And so that's, you know, I definitely feel that. It's definitely, it's great that you put it that way. That sometimes the beat just whispers to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I got words for this.
Yeah, that's the only way it works for me. I mean, I can do it now, and actually what I really like about group writing is somebody will be whispered the beat.
And that exactly, and that's why I'm like this. It still happens where it's like it doesn't, especially because I am part of a collaborative group, and that does I know exactly what you mean. Where it's like the beat is played, and I'm like, man, I'm not feeling this beat, and then
someone's
got the craziest hook, and I'm like, I guess,
oh shit,
I'm feeling this beat now.
And that's a big part of the freestyle method. Is it comes from a game that we used to play called Don't Fuck It Up, and that was just like, we have a communication, so like if you're running out of raps, you're like, yo, like, you know that feeling when you put our hand up and then somebody just like cut you off, boom, ba da ba ba.
Oh, so it doesn't end.
Or so you either have your guys picking you up, and we're always looking for a chorus. So even if it's crap, we can all say it together. And I remember freestyling like with the Lost Ones crew. That was my very first rap crew. We'd be at the bus stop, and people were like, yo, like, your songs are awesome. Like, I really like that first one you did. What was it called? Like, they thought we were thinking we were rehearsing, but we're just freestyling. We're playing the game, Don't Fuck It Up. We're like, we don't even know what that was about. Like, and so the freestyle method really kind of comes from that, like playing that game, and then every now and then somebody will say something, and everybody will just fucking get that feeling, and they'll be able to say the chorus like the second. Like somebody will say it once, and then you're like, oh, and we're all saying it at the same time. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. And so like keep saying the chorus. Write it down, record it, whatever. We know what we're gonna go to now.
Yeah.
And then you sit down, and half an hour later, you go like a dope track.
Yeah.
Like it's
crazy, man.
I love group writing.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like just now, man. You literally just went over like multiple different techniques to end up at a song, right? Like just the last couple of minutes here. So like, yeah, man, and I know it goes so much further than that, right? But yeah, man, I do feel like I want to get into our freestyle segment. Is there anything you wanted to plug right now?
I just wanted to let people know about our Monday group, downtown at Arts Commons. It's every Monday. We are going to take the Christmas break off, but we'll be back first on January 10th. So yeah, we're really trying to build a community there. We feed people. Also Thursdays at Down Willow Youth Lodge. Same time, 5 to 8. We have dinner there. That one's more of a home cooked dinner. And yeah, we're just really trying to build the community, ages 14 to 29-ish. Yeah, that's all I wanted to plug. And yeah, Tribe Artist Society, add us on Instagram. If you want to find me personally, it's Tribe.1491.